Okay, and get ready. This might be a long one, folks. So, I may soon be in the market to get a new laptop. It's something I've wanted for a while, and I'm working on something that I'm going to need a newer laptop. Here's the issue. So, being straight out, on some level, it's Mac versus PC. On some level. And I used to be a big Mac guy. And I think there was a lot more reason to, like, when I first got a Mac, which was about, I think, 2009, so about 10 years. I've had a Mac. I've had two actually. And at that time, I've had like four iPhones, something like that. And in the previous video, I mentioned that I finally got around to getting the Pixel 3 XL, which superior phone to. I mean, I don't know about the iPhone 11. I don't know what the comparison is there. And to be honest, I don't care. I'm actually really good. And as far as phones, I don't even care much about getting the Pixel 4 XL, which I'm sure will be, upgraded features and all that. And that's great. And one day when this thing starts to crap out, I'll get another one. And maybe it won't be a Pixel, maybe it'll be a Samsung or whatever. But I recently, for the most part, got off the Apple reservation. Now, you'll notice I am on some type of MacBook. This is actually an Air, and to be honest, the Air is the one that really got me thinking. Man, Apple's not great. So I got this computer as a gift from my mother. She had bought it, and she realized she didn't like it. At the time, I had a MacBook Pro. Wait, was it a Pro? Might have been a regular MacBook. Doesn't matter. And that particular MacBook, I was really happy with for the most part. I actually was able to, by watching YouTube videos, replace the hard drive with a solid state drive, and that was really exciting for me. It's not something that I've ever done before to a computer, so it was really cool to see it, and get to do it and upgrade your laptop and all that, and and at the time, this is maybe like 2012. At the time, like, getting a solid state drive in your computer was like a big deal, and well, at least for people like me, not for like techies. But uh, so yeah, I was really happy with it. But then my mom gave me this MacBook Air, and I sold my MacBook Pro to some close friends of mine that needed well, they a newish computer. They actually had a MacBook that had just, like, they'd had it years, and it just, no computer lasts forever. Um, so I switched it out, not remembering that this particular MacBook Air is super underpowered. It actually had the same amount of RAM as the one that I had before, which was 4 gigs, which at the time with what I was doing was fine. But around this time was when I started needing like 8 gigs of RAM. When you're running Adobe programs and stuff like that, when you're a photographer using upgraded cameras, like especially now, this thing, and I don't remember what kind of processor this thing has, but it's not a good one. And it didn't have a lot of drive space. Well, so I started looking into it. I was like, well, you know, I replaced a solid state drive on my previous computer. I can do it with this one. Well, it turns out you can't, because with this particular model, like, if this was a year older, I think this is the 2013. I could be wrong about that, but whatever the year was before it, it you could replace the drive, but this switched to a completely different type of solid state drive. It's not really a solid state drive. It's like a solid state chips. It's like a little rectangular whatever. Doesn't matter. Point is, like, you couldn't do it. Like, maybe you can now. I haven't really looked into it, but with the processor being underpowered, with the RAM, and apparently you can't replace the RAM in these either. So the Air, not a great experience. Also, so one thing I do love about the MacBooks is how great the what would you call it? It's not so much the design, but the stability of it. Like it's a solid, the unibody steel construction. You don't worry about something happening to this computer. I mean, I don't know if it could take a bullet, but if it had to save my life, it could, as opposed to a lot of laptops that are, plasticky. However, one thing I don't like about the steel construction is, and let's see if I can. Nah, it's not going to work. And it makes sense that it wouldn't work, but I thought, who knows? So, super uncomfortable to type on. The Air has it. The previous MacBook that I had, you have this solid. It's I don't know if you call it sharp, but the edge of the damn thing is always kind of ribbing into your hands. And it's just not comfortable. It's not fun to type on. It just sucks at the end of the day. So eventually I got off the Apple reservation. And look, in the whole Mac versus PC thing, like Apple puts out some really solid products that do last a long time. However, they're often overpriced and they do some shady stuff here and there, especially lately. There's a lot. If you go look up Louis Rossmann, you can see some of the things that he deals with Apple customers, and like them, a computer that could be fixed for $50. They tell you it's complete bust, and you have to go spend another $2,000 to get a new computer, and you know, but that's probably more rare. Like it's not to say that it's rare, but like it probably doesn't happen super often. But what if you're one of those people? I'm not 100% against getting a MacBook because so this project is going to involve video editing. I'll be doing something more advanced than what I do with this, which is very lazy, but I just felt like making a video. Um, so I'm gonna need up to date specs, and I'm trying to avoid a MacBook. But the reality is that even though they definitely have issues, I'm one of the big things for me is also I think they called it dongle gate, where basically now there's no USB port, there's no SD card slot. I'm a photographer. Now some photographers enjoy just plugging in their laptop to their computer. I don't. No, it's a personal preference. It's not that huge a deal. I like having an SD card slot. Um, and there's no USB A port now. You have to use USB 3. So otherwise, you then have to buy an additional device to connect your other devices, and that's bullshit. I know that's the way technology is going. Eventually, USB Cs will replace everything, but we ain't there yet. We're still at the point where people buy the DVD/VHS players. And hey, that's okay. Tech companies don't always get to tell consumers where the technology is going, you know? But in any case, so I got it narrowed down to three, technically four computers, if you include the MacBook. And what I need, as near as I can tell, is a quad core i7 processor. Now, I'm not a techie guy, so I don't know about like all the gigahertz and stuff like that. But I know a dual core is going to be a little slow. I've heard that the Core i9 processors have like some thermal issues. So just to be safe, let's go with the i7. And supposedly a quad core i7 is fine. So we're going to start with the Lenovo. Now, Lenovo has so many different brandings. I think I got the one. And if you want to leave a comment, if you know about tech, and if you have a suggestion, don't be pissy about it. The one thing that I've noticed is that there's so much. It's not just Mac. There's so much like brand loyalty people here. When it comes to tech, like it's so confusing. I've watched like literally 24 videos, a lot of Linus Tech Tips. Unbox Therapy. There's another guy named Dave Lee who seems pretty good. Who was just being honest, like he seems a little more. Not that those other two guys are lying, but he seems a little more like I don't really care which one you get. But I haven't watched much of his stuff. He probably has a brand too. I'm not a big fan of Lenovo because at my work we have Lenovo, and it's not been a great experience. Partially because they put a lot of extra crap on those computers. So there's this Lenovo workstation thing that it basically it monitors your systems. Fine. Problem is like it does it at startup, which means it's slowing down my computer. I just want to log into work and clock in. I don't need your garbage, like if look, there's plenty of system monitoring apps that or programs that I could download. I guess we call them apps now, even though it's not a phone. There's plenty of them out there. I don't need your help with that. Like I'll if I want it, I'll download it. But that's I guess it's less of a serious concern as it is like just a pet peeve of mine. That said, Lenovo seems to be one of the better computers. So, speccing it out, I went with the. I don't know that I need this. Like, what? Look, again, I'm not a tech guy. Seems to have turbo boost. I don't know, up to 4.8. Honestly, I chose that one because it says 16 gigabytes onboard memory. Um, because let's see. Do I need Windows 10 Pro? I don't know. I don't think so. I definitely don't need any of the Windows software as far as productivity. Onboard memory, 16 gigabytes DDR4. Check. Have to have that. Can't go with 8. Selectable DIMM memory. I'll be honest with you. I don't know the difference. So I selected 32 gigabytes DDR4. Again, look, I've never pretended like I'm a super tech guy. So total memory goes up to 48. I might not need that. I might be able to lower that and lower the price. Hard drive. Well, I went with the 512 gigabyte solid state drive. I'm also going to need to buy because this is going to be recording stuff in 4K. I'm also going to need to buy an external drive. So I feel like since things will be done in parts, if I buy like a 2 terabyte external drive, I think 512 gigabytes is fine. I'm pretty sure. Uh, don't know anything about the display. Went with not the best one, but the second best one. Because, I don't know. I tend to think everything's a scam. So, like, don't go with the cheapest, but don't go with the best. I know that's an idiot's like concept. Uh, so let's see. The rest of the stuff is unnecessary. Now, altogether, so the base price was $1,600. As configured, it's $2,400 plus tax. But with the discounts on here, comes out to $1,713, which seems like a fair price for what I'm looking at. That said, that's only if I buy it like right now. Otherwise, this is a $2,400 configuration. Let's go with the one that was suggested to me, which the do I need notifications? No, thank you. I'll be honest with you. There's a part of me that's very aesthetic driven and would just flat out love to buy a Razer Blade Stealth just because it looks cool. That's dumb. I know it's dumb. You don't need to tell me that it's dumb. However, look, you are who you are in life. This one's a little more simplified, and I didn't spec it out. It's out of stock anyway. But just for argument's sake, doesn't matter. So the Razer Blade Stealth. So we got 8th gen Core i7 processor. Uh, we've got an NVIDIA Force. That's the graphics chip. Um, oh, on the ThinkPad, one of those was probably the graphics chip. So storage, 512 gigabytes. That's what I want. 16 gigabytes dual channel. Battery life's fine. 8 hours. I doubt I'll be using it like that consistently. Like I'm not gonna be typing for 12 hours. So this one looks solid. And normally 1900 down to 1600. I probably designed something a little more powerful in the ThinkPad, so there's that to account for. However, still cheaper. I mean, you're talking about $400 cheaper for the bit for the actual price, not the discounted price. No wait, yeah. So 2300 and 1900, yeah. So, Razer Blade Stealth, still kind of leaning towards that. You know, if I can get it for that price, assuming everything works out the way I want, because I might not be able to get any of these. Surface Laptop 2. So, I actually went to the Microsoft store in the mall yesterday, and I will say this. I'll say two things. One, I had mentioned earlier, one of my big problems with the MacBooks is that line that digs into my wrists when I'm typing. How uncomfortable it is to type on this goddamn thing. One thing about the Surface laptop. Now, bear in mind, this isn't a Surface Pro. This is the Surface laptop. This isn't the two-in-one where it separates and now you got a tablet. No, this is the one that's an actual laptop. It's got like a really cool hinge that kind of flexes. It's interesting. Um, that thing was so comfortable typing, so comfortable. Loved the ergonomics of it. If you just want something that seems to work pretty well and feels really good, go with the Surface laptop. And from what I've seen, I think I was watching a Linus Tech Tips earlier, saying the same thing. Like super comfortable. So spec this one out: 16 gigabytes, Core i7. And I noticed that Lenovo gives you a lot more of specific options, and with the other ones, it seems like this is what you get. 512 gigabytes. So, like I said, like this one, it's like all this stuff, to go through, and like I don't know what does what. I don't know. Maybe that's something to say for the Lenovo's, that it's designed for people that know what they're looking at. That said, base price is 2200. This one's 1900. So this Surface Laptop 2 is relatively similar to, seems like the Razer's cheaper than the Surface. So now we get to the MacBook. Customize your MacBook Pro. Okay. Processor. Core i5. Nope. Look, there is a part of me that thinks like, well, they're saying now like you don't want that. That's going to be super slow. But like at one point that was the like the technology. Like probably only like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that was the top of the line technology. And if there's one thing that I've noticed now, maybe it's the perception as you move forward, but everything seems to be incremental now. Like oh, that's going to be super slow. Is it really? You know, but there's also the fact that like as processing power and all this gets faster, people develop programs that take up more memory. So maybe it all evens out because of that. Maybe the Core i5 was super fast at the time when the programs that it was using weren't quite as strenuous. It's probably what it is actually, but it's hard to, as a normal human being, go like, yeah, you can tell the difference, like between like a third of a second and like an eighth of a second, like whatever. 16 gigabytes, like LPDDR3 memory. That's probably a Mac thing. Also, I do want to point out it has the touch bar thing, touch ID. That's stupid. I don't care about it, but it's there. There's no sense in screwing with it. For this one, I just went for 256 gigs. Let's go up to 512, just for the hell of it. Um, I noticed it didn't change down here. You can already see the price. Oh, forgot about that. Gonna need Final Cut Pro. So it says 2,300. It's this is more than a $3,000 computer. Uh, no, no. So to get what I want with a Mac, it's the it's $2,400. Now I'm sure I can find deals online. That's probably get it for 1,800, 1,700. Yeah, or maybe an older model. As long as the specs are the same, I don't care if it's the 2019 or the 2018. I just want something that'll function. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not partial to any of this. I want something that hopefully lasts for at least 4 years, um, which isn't a lot to expect for like a nearly $2,000 computer. I also I I need 16 gigs of RAM. Even if I wasn't doing video as a photographer, 4 to 8 gigs isn't a lot. Like 12, like as a photographer, I think 12 gigs is a sweet spot where you wouldn't need more than that. But you can do that with a desktop. You can't really do. Like, I don't think most laptops have that. So it doesn't seem that they have those customizations currently. Um, I need a decent amount of storage, and I prefer a solid state drive on a laptop. On a desktop, you do a dual drive where the operating system is on a solid state, and then a lot of your other stuff can go on a hard drive with more space. But you only got room for one drive on this thing. I need it solid state. I need everything to work and work quickly, especially when you're rendering 4K. A lot of moving parts, and particularly with a hard drive, you're talking about like a lot of heat that has to be processed. So that's all I got to say. Feel free if you're watching this to leave a comment. Again, there'll be somebody. You are stupid. Yeah, all right. You're hilarious. There was there's a video that I had to block comments because not because I don't have thick skin, because my phone kept ringing. Uh, and like there was a few comments that were thoughtful that disagree with me, so I talked to those people. But most of the comments were trolls who were just like, "You're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about, and you're just so stupid." Okay, sure. I'm sure the guy that talks like that, or there was one that was a chick. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you're a genius. In any case, I'm not a techie guy. I do pay attention to technology, but when it comes to the specifics and like how gigahertz, like I know that's a wavelength. I don't know what that has to do with a processor. Hey, if you know, I actually have someone, a few people that I can ask that question to, or I might just Google it now. But yeah. So if you have a preference, or if you have a computer that you personally dealt with, or if you have thoughts on the Surface, the ThinkPad, or the Razer. I know there's also the Dell XPS 13. Truthfully, I have problems with almost all of these. The Razer I have no experience with. I had a really bad experience with a Dell. My first computers were Dells. I've had 3 Dell laptops, or two. No, 3. Now, bearing in mind that the one that this happened with, my mom had one and I had one. Mine and then hers both did the same thing. Crapped out just after the warranty, like a month later. Crapped out, and I think the warranty was only for a year. It was a garbage computer, but I understand that it's not the same computer now. And the XPS 13 has great specs on it and comes seemingly recommended, but I don't know. I just don't want to deal with Dell. And I've also had like really bad customer service experiences with Dell, like really bad. So yeah. If you feel like it, subscribe, leave a comment, whatever. Thank you and good night.